Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, reprising my role as the underwater philosopher of this mining rig.
Okay. I should have known. I'm Nico, an employee of Krusty Krab.
And I'm Dan, a xenomorph.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's not unprecedented because we're here today to talk about Leviathan. That's right. It was released in 1989, directed by George Cosmatos. We've got Peter Weller as Beck, Richard Crenner as Doc, Amanda Pays as Williams, Ernie Hudson as Jones or Jonesy, and Michael Carmine as De Jesus. So we open with a deep sea crew on a mining rig. Their mission is to mine precious materials from deep sea deposits on behalf of the Trioceanic Company, of course. And they are on the eve of completing their jobs. I think they had to shift like 25 tons of precious minerals.
Something like that.
Just managed to do it. One of the crew, Six Pack, ends up getting lost while on the job, and he discovers a crashed Russian sub, along with several crew dossiers, as well as 2 containers of vodka, a bottle and a flask. Now, the bottle is submitted along with the rest of the stuff from the sub. However, the flask, Six Pack kind of stealthily stows that one away.
It wasn't even really stealthily. He just puts it in his back pocket in front of God and everyone. Dude was not being covert in the least.
Why don't you go ahead and tell me what happens next, Nico, since you know so much?
I do know so much. Thank you for recognizing my genius. Beck, the leader of the crew, orders a bottle of vodka to be impounded, not knowing about Six Pack's secret flask. That's a series of words that I just said. Six Pack is his name, to be clear. And Six Pack drinks from the flask, which he also shares with a crewmate. But he eventually develops a skin rash, which is no bueno. He goes to see the ship's doctor, Doc, but his condition deteriorates and he eventually dies after having quite a conversation about, my girlfriend up at surface is going to be, if she finds out that I got herpes, that's going to be bad news. And then Doc and Beck begin to evaluate the crew, and all but one crew member check out okay. So, not too bad, not too bad.
I mean, that sounds fine, right, Dan?
Maybe. So, unfortunately, the one crew member who doesn't have a chance to get checked also becomes infected. Her hair starts to fall out, and when she realizes that she's infected, she ends up killing herself. The crew asks for immediate extraction from Martin, who is their contact at Trioceanic, and they get told that there's a hurricane coming their way, and they have to wait an extra 12 hours to be extracted. So Doc, along the way, he realizes that there's some genetic manipulation potential here going on with this kind of virus disease thing. And he and the rest of the crew tried to sort of flush the bodies out by dumping them off the ship into the ocean.
But I guess as some of our listeners might know, the dump does not go according to plan. Does it, Nico?
Why would some of our listeners know that? Do we have a penchant for dumps going badly? Is that a bit that I'm not aware of?
Whoa, I'm just saying.
It'd be like that sometimes.
I mean,
it's like that sometimes, is it not?
God damn it. Okay, anyway, Six Pack and the other deceased crew members' bodies fuse and reanimate into a horrifying creature. The crew manages to dump the creature off of the ship, but unfortunately, as they're dumping it, like I said, the dump doesn't go according to plan, and a tentacle is cut off and remains on board.
Happens.
Yeah, it happens, just a regular Tuesday. The tentacle feeds on the ship's blood supply, and it grows into a monster, which attacks the remaining crew members one by one. At this point, Doc realizes that nobody can leave and that they're all fucked, otherwise a mutation might spread. So, he does the totally rational thing and launches all of the escape pods into the deep blue beyond and just fucks everybody.
Well, is everybody fucked, Dan? What happens?
Most people are fucked. So the crew all gets killed off except for Jones, Beck, and Williams. So they sort of outwit the monster while they're on the ship, and they manage to make it to the surface, only to discover that they were lied to and there actually is no hurricane. And we've kind of been dropped hints along the way that, some of them not so subtle hints, that the corporation has been kind of screwing them since they've figured out since the corporation figured out what was going on. So after dodging some sharks, they managed to signal a helicopter. And then all of a sudden, as they're getting saved, the monster appears. It just kind of surfaces and it kills Jones. But Beck manages to blow it up with his second last flare, because earlier he said the last flare, and now
Not
he's got
second to
another
last.
one. The second last, the last flare. And he and Williams managed to escape. So the movie closes with Beck and Williams kind of getting on this oil rig or something. Yeah. And Martin, the contact from Trioceanic, is there, and she is obviously faking being excited to see them because she wanted them dead. And Beck punches her in the face, and he's like, yeah, now I feel a lot better. Ends on a witty one-liner.
Just like that, the movie ends. We got a lot to talk about here, guys. So let's lead with the visuals. You know, sometimes, as previously discussed in earlier episodes of the pod, I like the outside of the cinnamon bun and Nico likes the center.
It's
so,
true.
Nico, let's just get to the center. How many licks does it take for the Tootsie Pop, bro? How do you feel about the way the monsters looked in this?
I'm torn because I love practical effects, but and this is something that kills me. I love it when movies don't show their, big bad and like reveal their hand, but for 90% of the movie until the very, very end, we only really see like a couple of worm-looking tentacle things at a time, and so I think it just looks kind of silly. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the practical effects are always good to see, but I just couldn't take this one seriously, man.
Not even the big bad that comes in towards the end?
He was more menacing, but he also just looked like the type of monster that I would see on the back of a cereal box. I don't know.
What kind of cereal do you eat?
Yeah. Oh, what the fuck kind of cereal are you eating? Fucking
Don't worry
Monsteros?
about it. Yeah. I'm eating some fucking blueberries, you blueberry bitch.
Oh,
What?
God, what?
Jesus.
Jeez. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead now and change direction here to Dan. Dan, what do you think about not just the monster? I'm going to ask you to broaden your radar here. Or no, it's sonar they have under the ocean, isn't it? Sonar, like dolphins. So
Nar.
what do you think about the general atmosphere and ambiance of Under the Ocean? Particularly, how'd you feel about when they were out there kind of doing the walks and drilling for the stuff? We had a couple shots of them outside, underwater as it was. What'd you think about that?
I thought they were pretty good. I was actually kind of sitting there trying to figure out how they did that in 1989, because I feel like when they were sort of out in the water, I think it looked kind of good. It sort of had sort of like that hazy quality that you would have sort of in like, I don't quite want to say murky water, but sometimes water can murky up your vision a little bit. So I thought it looked pretty good. Kind of going back to the monsters stuff, I thought those effects were good. They were fine. Nothing blew me away about it, but I thought it was good. And all the sets and everything to me looked pretty good as well.
The sets were great.
So that was actually something that I wanted to raise to Nico, because I know he's a big fan of Alien, as well as, the set design and the way the ship itself looks in Alien. So Nico, first off, did you enjoy the design of what we were given?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I was saying to you guys earlier, this is a movie that is very clearly paying homage to two films in particular, which we'll get to in a second. But I really did appreciate the design of the different sort of like cabin rooms and the different parts of the decks and whatever. What was the ship called? Like something 7 or
I don't
something?
even remember.
Anyway, the design was really, really good. I will give it that. It had a convincing feel. It didn't look hokey, and every part of the ship looked authentic. And it also, this is something that I really like, it looked lived in. One thing that is really crucial when you're doing particularly science fiction type horror like this is, you've got to make it look like people are actually there. You can't just have it be a set where it's like, oh, this is clearly designed to be for a horror movie. Like, it looked like people were actually working there, and I appreciated that.
That's a good point.
So we're going to go ahead now and discuss the audio. And I have to say, to me, this was perhaps one of the biggest lacking areas in the movie. There was nothing that really jumped out to me, and not even in a good way. I was confused at some of the choices for the score.
Fucking music, man.
Particularly the end. I did not know how to feel about that. But, I'm going to go ahead and kind of concede to our resident Sonic Spicer over here, Dan.
Sonic Spicer?
Sonic Spicer? Is that like a mix of fucking Frank Herbert and Sonic the Hedgehog?
Am I a Mega Man bad guy now?
Gotta go blast!
I thought the audio was okay. I thought that the voices all sounded pretty good. The dialogue sounded great. The two things that stuck out to me, one at the beginning, the sort of intro credit music. One thing I loved was they used whale sounds in it. And I, one, thematically thought that was kind of cool because obviously underwater. But two, I'm a big fan of whale sound type things. And like when I write stuff, I love sounds like whale and like weird like horn whale kind of things. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And then as a super negative, at the very end, when Beck punches Martin in the face at the very, very, very end, there's like just a super canned like kind of like punch sound. And I was just like, really? Like, even in 1989, that was bad. And like, I don't know, it was just real bad. But other than that, I kind of agree with you on a lot of the music side of it. But yeah, overall, I would say it was okay.
All right, and Nico, do you have any additions to what we've discussed so far?
Yeah, the music is what made this film so tonally all over the place. There are parts in the beginning and end, not so much in the middle because there's most of the conflict there, but in the sort of like bookending the film, there are these moments where there'll be this like cheesy ass patriotic music that sounds like it's coming from Top Gun or some sort of like, I don't know, dating show, where there'll be a scene where like someone will get fucked up really bad, like a six-pack, his back gets like fucking eviscerated and scaly, and he looks really fucked up. And then we have a scene between Williams and Beck where there's some clear sort of hints at romance, and we've got these really cheesy synthy strings, and it completely fucking took me out of it. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Have you ever heard the phrase, having stood on the shoulders of giants?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's no surprise. If you've seen this movie, you know exactly what giants we're talking about. This film is kind of like the love child of Alien and The Thing. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. How much of this movie do you think was derived from those two? And do you think this adds any kind of originality to the mix? So let's start with you, Dan. I mean, do you think how much of this movie is basically Alien and The Thing?
99%.
Damn.
And
Well, okay.
And no, I don't think it adds anything.
Jesus.
To me, this is where the movie just fucking fails, to be honest. Like, to be blunt, I think if this movie existed sort of in a vacuum, I think it would be an okay movie. But everything in this movie has been done and done way better. And it's not even like it did it in a clever way or slightly new way. I mean, the plot is Alien in The Thing. That's what it is. It's just underwater instead of in space. I mean, even down to like sort of at the beginning when we're kind of learning about the crew and everything, even the crew like humor that they have with each other and the camaraderie and everything is like exactly the same that they have in Alien.
But not as charming.
And there's a point when like the monster, it's like acid or something is like burning through different parts of the ship, just like Alien. And there's scenes where the monster is, inside people, and we don't quite get a chest burster scene.
We get three almost chest burster scenes.
It's like
Right.
hand burster scene, not chest. But and I mean, it's just like this is just fucking Alien. Like it's not even a good twist on it. It's just that, and I just think that was really just really lame. Again, it's like if If it existed in a vacuum and Alien didn't exist or something, okay, it would be okay. But there's no originality to it, I think.
Well, it's funny because we also, kind of following with that trend, there's also the scene where, first off, the blood supply of the vessel is destroyed by the monster, just like in the thing. And it's also found that the doctor, he's kind of chatting with the computer about what could be happening
Just
here.
like Mother. Just
Yep.
like Mother and Alien.
And also just like the thing where the doctor in the thing is talking to the computer and trying to, find the exponents of what's going on and what's really happening here. It's a lot of the same. A lot of the same. I honestly, Dan, I would love to say something different. I would love to defend the movie, but I honestly can't. It's almost like they sat there, looked at these two movies, and they were like, you know what? We really need to capitalize on this.
It's
This-
like that,
this is what needs to
that
happen.
fucking picture, that meme where it's like two stick figures, and it's like one of them, the one on the left is an artist, and they're holding something, and they're like, hey, I made this. And then the other one takes it and says, oh, this is mine now. That's what they did with Alien and the Thing. Literally, the first half of the movie is Alien. The second half of the movie is the Thing. We go from having this, sort of like dynamic of people exploring this fascinating, fantastic underwater planet, which could have very well just been a sub for space. We've got the crew dynamics. We've got discovering the characteristics of the fucking beast, and then it turns into the whole like, oh, who's infected? Who can we trust? What's going on? Like, they did their homework, but they didn't. They didn't copy well enough.
Dan and I know all about that, but I mean, I don't know. But you guys are obviously correct. This is very much a play on those two. So let's go ahead now and see if maybe it keeps any of the nuance. Is there any kind of metaphor or commentary here? I guess one particular one would have to be just, capitalism, right? The nature of the oil, trioceanic, that company that keeps trying to screw them over at every turn. Do you guys see a strong commentary here?
I think so. I mean, the corporation really just tries to keep them there. And they, overtly mention a couple times, like, oh, do you really think that this company is going to care about you? I think like, I think it was after they've been told that there's a hurricane, which obviously wasn't true in the end, but there's a hurricane, and then people start dying, and then they're like, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here. At that point, Beck tries to contact the corporation again, and Doc is like, do you really think that this company is going to care about you? Do you think that they're going to risk like a lawsuit with the hurricane in order to save the members of 8 lives or whatever? Like, they really don't care. And I mean, it's true, like the corporation obviously doesn't throughout the whole movie, and there's obviously malevolent, big bad in the corporation kind of thing. So I think that's one of the big themes behind it.
I will say it also kind of riffed on Alien in that regard.
Yeah.
But I mean, Nico, do you see anything else that we can really say is a kind of a theme even in this film?
So I am just about as anti-capitalist as you can get, and I didn't even really go for much of the theme there. It was just like, corporation bad. And Martin was so transparently evil the entire time that it just didn't really have any kind of actual draw or suspense. The one thing that I feel like they were going to do something with her and gonna have her be some sort of twist character. There's a scene after the second or third time that Beck and Doc interact with her where we transition to Martin's actual office and we zoom in on Martin's eyes, and they're freakishly light blue, and the camera stays on her for a long time, and I'm like, oh, are we gonna see something like, is she corrupted? Is there something going on in the surface? No, she just got really nice eyes, fam.
I was going to say they were just showing off her really nice eyes, I think.
Yeah, like straight up.
And yeah, I mean, Frosty, looks aside. There was nothing there. And I'm going to go ahead and say I really didn't dig too much aside from that. There is a small commentary that Beck makes in regards to genetics and genetic engineering. And Beck makes the argument, well, what if we run out of planes? Are we gonna
So goddamn dumb.
are we gonna grow some bird people? And my first reaction was, well, Beck, even if we had bird people, that would be highly inefficient because then they'd have to carry all the non-bird people. So I don't know if that would really work. And then they talked about, well, it's great. It's a great idea. They're growing underwater humans. Think about it. Underwater farming. And I'm thinking, well, what would you grow underwater? But
Sea cucumbers.
There's no light where they are.
and so there's that discussion. And then there's a Latin phrase that Doc says, and he translates it to don't fuck with Mother Nature. And I guess maybe that's kind of another theme here where I don't know if it's they're just desserts for, drilling and taking away from the earth. So then this plague is unleashed, but then the plague was actually the result of the tampering of man. So maybe that was the sin, trying to improve upon nature's perfection and making something that was even better, to be honest. So I don't really know. I really couldn't tell you. And another thing I feel like I couldn't tell you is why was the corporation trying to keep them down there? Is there any explanation as to why? Essentially what happens is this crew basically has to, I think they've got to shift 25 tons or something like that of material, and they succeed.
Yeah, they get it done.
And then the corporation's like, nah. And I'm like, well, that just doesn't make any sense. And the only possible plausible thing I can think of is maybe they just weren't trying to pay them. But all of them have family on the surface.
Yeah.
They've all got things to look forward to. They're actually, most of them are pretty respected. Doc is a highly respected doctor who he accidentally killed some people with,
Oops.
he killed some people. We're going to leave it at that. And yeah, oh man, that's a not too good to say. So he accidentally killed some
Williams
folks
is
and-
going to be a fucking astronaut. Like, they've got shit going on. Beck is a world-renowned geologist. They're not nobodies.
Yeah, so I kind of feel the whole let's trap him down there was kind of dumb. But, maybe let's go to the man who might have some insight here. Dan.
I don't really have too much insight. I mean, it was one of those where at first I thought once it becomes like obvious, once they realize that, the company is trying to keep them there, that, okay, maybe like the company doesn't want to deal with like lawsuits and liability of, the deaths of the people or something that, that didn't survive. But when you kind of start following the paper trail, it's like, well, wait, they told you there was this hurricane before any of this started getting serious. So they've like been planning on keeping you here for like the entirety of the movie anyways. And that doesn't make any sense because at that point shit wasn't going down. Yeah. And the whole like mutation thing happened from the Russians had experimented on people, or so what led to believe. In order to save the Russian crew, the Russians sank their own ship to stop the mutation from getting out and infecting like the whole world or whatever. That's when this crew explored that ship and got infected and everything like that. So like when you kind of follow the paper trail of this corporation, it's like, well, they weren't the ones who started this. How would they know about it? And if they did know about it, why would you send people down there in the first place to do the work?
That's a damn good point, Dan.
And then not even reap the benefits. Like you spent all this money sending people down and you're not even going to get the fruits of the labor?
Well, that actually brings up my second point. They sent them there to, quote, turn the mine around. And they had. The mine, they literally say at the start, like, this is going to be the mother lode. It's going to be very, very profitable. And she being Martin is super excited about it. She goes, you've proven me a genius. So I really don't understand where the beef would be. And, we even have people that are going to be coming down from the surface to, start staying in the mine. They call it the shack. They stay in the shack. And they're just there in the shack, and there's going to be more people. So it kind of implies that this is going to be kind of like a little hub under the sea, so to speak. So I really don't know where that came from. And Nico, if you have anything to add, any pearls of wisdom, now's the time.
See, you and Dan's points got me kind of fucked up because I hadn't considered those earlier, and I genuinely don't understand why they would try and cover that up because there's no indication that Martin knows about the big scary thingy. And also, if this is literally, like Justin said, one of the first lines of the movie is, "Oh, this is the mother lode." So why would you abandon that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Nope,
And the
not
part
at
that
all.
confuses me even more, nearing the end when stuff is starting to get more serious, Martin tells them that they called Navy and Coast Guard or something to search for them or something. I can't quite remember. They've got them on standby or something like that. So then when the characters do make it up to the top against all odds, there's helicopter looking for people, like actively looking for people, not just like a routine patrol or whatever that probably doesn't even
Right.
really happen in the middle of the ocean anyways. Like they were actively looking for people. So that implies that the company did actually call the Navy and Coast Guard looking for these people.
Wait, yeah, that makes no sense. Why would they tell them if they're trying to keep it?
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's funny
God damn it.
because Jones actually checks the weather.
Yeah, he
And-
does.
I didn't really get a good look at it, but I thought there was maybe, because he's like, no waves, please, no waves. And I'm like, what's going on here? A lot of this didn't add up. So, and I hate for this to follow the trend. What do you guys think about the creature? And Nico's kind of spoken his piece a little bit about it. For the record, I actually kind of like the multiple forms of the creature, only because I like the thing, and this is kind of like the thing's little brother, essentially. I mean, this is, how many times am I going to say it? This is the thing, basically. It's an amalgamation of a bunch of different things. You guys remember how one of the monsters in the thing, it had the face, when it was kind of like a massive blob, it had the face of one of the crew members?
Yeah.
Hey, this does that same trick. Or, like the tentacles, stuff regrowing, it's shifting all around the ship. Oh, you've been infected by it. Now you're going to start to change. It's the same songs, just a shittier album. And I really don't know what to say outside of that. I mean, Dan, is there any virtuosity about this monster?
Not really. I mean,
God damn.
I didn't really understand the monster either. And like, yes, it goes through different forms, but I mean, we see scenes where it has tentacles that are like, take up like the whole hallway. It's like long ass tentacles. But then later on, it's like a human-sized creature. I don't quite understand that. And now I don't have to understand every single thing about the monster because that's
Certainly.
part of the scary part is not understanding it. But I guess to me, it just didn't make sense as to like how the different forms were there. And like, it just seemed to be whatever they wanted it to be at that time. And with no real rhyme or reason, in my opinion. So I was a little put off on the monster there.
Okay. I mean, I pretty much echo those thoughts, Dan. And I will say as well, I cannot help but feel like they could have done something more. Also, can I just say, the mutation was supposed to make, I guess, humans that were adapted to the deep sea.
That's true.
And at the same time, we got, what the fuck is this? Like, this was nothing like a person. And I get it, they mess with the genetic sequencing and all that. But I mean, this creature could do anything, apparently. It can swim. It can, come up to the surface just fine, apparently. The pressure doesn't affect the creature. Then again, it didn't affect the people either. So I guess maybe that's keeping in trend. But I don't really know. And I kind of didn't like the creature. I thought it was dumb, to be honest. It was kind of like them trying to do something, but they did it halfway. So
Yeah.
And Nico, any comments there from your side of the world?
It's I feel like this had the potential for greatness, and they were right on the precipice. Like if they did just a lot more proofreading of the script and everything, I feel like this could have been so cool because in concept, I love the thing. I love Alien. I love when movies are underwater, but combining that with a monster that doesn't really make sense. Also, like, how we never see any evidence of it like absorbing people's intelligence or memories or whatever. That was kind of a one-off thing. I don't know. It was weird, man.
Yeah. So I guess now we're gonna have to decide, how well does this hold up? Well, first off, is this scary at all, Dan?
I feel like it moderately. No, I mean,
Moderately?
like I wasn't scared, but especially like in 1989, if I watched it in a theater in the right environment, I would, a little bit.
All right, Nico, how about you?
The thing that makes me laugh about this was that they knew what they were doing with one of the jump scares when it's at the end of the movie. Williams doesn't realize it yet, but it's just her, Beck, and Jones left on the ship who are human and not infected. And she just fucking jumps down from like 8 feet wearing boots onto this wire grating catwalk, and it's super loud. And she's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" So, like, the director very clearly knew, like, oh, this is going to be loud and out of nowhere. It'll be a jump scare. But it wasn't scary. It was just loud. So, no.
I mean, I don't really think this is scary either, to be honest. I think it had the potential to be scary. I just think the pacing was way off. And we'll talk about that, I'll talk about that a little bit later, I guess. But does this movie hold up well? Is this something that you could watch in 2020?
I think it holds up. I mean, if we're talking about like, the effects and that kind of stuff, I'd say they held up pretty well. I mean, I think a lot of the effects and whatnot is, I guess one of the good things about it is it does have a sort of Alien, the Thing like effects, not quite as amazing as them, but like I'd say those would hold up. Yeah.
Okay, I agree. Nico, are you in consensus?
I did mention earlier how I like the set design and stuff. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of the design of the creature, I think that just in terms purely of the way the movie's put together, I think it does hold up. Narratively, no. Visually, sure, yeah.
Okay, all right. And I have actually a very quick question at all. We've all seen Underwater. Listeners of the pod will have known our review. Mm-hmm. Did Underwater take anything from this movie, or did it rather take things from the movie that this movie took things from?
What?
Sorry. Did this movie, have any influence on Underwater? Or did Underwater rather take from Alien and The Thing as opposed to this? I guess more so Alien for Underwater.
Yeah. I would say the latter, particularly because Underwater has more of like a little bit more like Lovecraftian influences and stuff like that. It's much more its own thing as opposed to this pastiche of different ideas that appeared in, 2 of the biggest horror films of the 20th century.
All right, Dan, concur or no?
I mean, I don't really remember getting a lot of Alien or The Thing vibes out of Underwater. Okay. I mean, it's not like this unknown monster hunting them inside the ship and they're not getting infected by it, who's infected, who's not. I mean, yeah, there are the unknown creatures underwater, of course, that are attacking them, but I feel like it's a different feeling, sort of. But I mean, I think, if anything, really the only thing that Underwater could have taken from this one, I think, was sort of the underwater
mining.
Yeah, and mining kind of thing. But that would be probably the only excuse to be that far underwater anyways.
Agreed. So speaking of reasons to be that far underwater, time for What Would You Do? For reasons unknown, the 3 of us have signed up to drill underwater. So we're like 16,000 feet below. It's the 3 of us and a couple other crew members. When, they bring back a bottle of, I don't know, a random food or something like that from a crashed Russian sub, they share out some of the food, but they hate us, so they don't give us any. Well, that turns out to be a good thing because people start getting infected. Now, I'm going to present to you 3 different points in the movie and ask you what you would do. Point number 1. They're checking all of us out just for infections, they say. Do you get suspicious at that point?
Maybe a little bit, but not seriously, no.
Okay. So, scene number 2, we're trying now to dump the bodies, and one of the bodies turns into a fucking monster. And we manage to dump it, but there's a tentacle. Right. I mean, would you request immediate extract? Would you just say fuck it and hop in one of the bubbles? Like, what would you do? Tell me what you would do.
I would request immediate extract.
All right, and Nico?
See, I'm not so sure because at that point there wasn't that many dead people. So I would try and appeal to Beck or other higher ups and be like, hey, why don't we all get the fuck out of Dodge? Because that seems like the logical thing to do. And I feel like if they all just had that conversation, just very frankly, it probably would have been a little bit better, but I certainly would have been on my way out.
And third scenario, so you know that another crew member has died, De Jesus, whatever. What would your plan be to defeat the monster and stay alive? What would your plan of action be? I'm going to start with you, Nico. What would your plan of action be?
I would try to get to just like a different area of the shack because they mention throughout the movie that it's in danger of imploding. So what I would try and do is I would try and like balance out the pressure between two rooms using like a fucking airlock or something and trap it in the part that's going to get imploded.
There goes
Wow.
the tactic.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, well, I'll get to my point in a second, but I want to hear from you, Dan. Can you top the master strategist that's Nico?
I would, so they kind of grab some flamethrowers. I would
Right.
definitely do that and hunt it down. Kind of like what they tried, except I would just do it better. And I would try to flamethrower it. And then I would, if that failed, I would just fucking leave. Just fucking leave.
So we'll talk about that in just a sec. I would follow your advice, Dan, but here's what I would say. Knowing that it can grow from like a small piece, which is evident after it eats De Jesus, I wouldn't let people be alone. That was like the
yeah.
downfall of everyone.
Buddy
Just
system.
letting people be alone. Nah, we're going to stick together right now. And everyone load up with a flamethrower and drop a pack of blood here. And once it comes for the blood, kill it. Kill it dead. And then we can leave. But the whole thing with the doctor, like, no, I've got to stop everyone from leaving. Otherwise, this could spread. Bro, that was the thing, and it doesn't even make sense in this scenario.
It does.
That was a really dumb
Like-
decision.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in the thing could look exactly like a person and act exactly like a person. This thing irrevocably changes you into like a mound of flesh. You're not going to be able to hide that way. So, yes, it can infect people, but it's a lot more visible, basically.
Well, also my thing about like, oh, we have to let me trap everyone here so that we die with this secret and the secret doesn't get out. Well, what do you think the Russians did? That's exactly why you're in this whole situation. Because they did
True.
literally the same thing and you're here. So you don't think it's going to happen again? Come on now.
True. So now let's go ahead and turn to the critical review. So looking at Rotten Tomatoes, it's a big oof. This one has got a 24% from critics and a 26% from the
damn.
audience.
Oof.
I wasn't
So-
expecting that low.
First off, aside from anything we've said, is there any quick criticism you want to give the movie? I'm going to lead and say the ending is a little bit wild. You know, they go from like 16,000 feet at the bottom of the ocean immediately up to the surface by just using a couple air tanks. I guess those were some really potent air tanks to get them all the way up to the surface. They also don't have to deal with pressure or the bends or anything else like that. There was a random 30 seconds where they had to dodge some fucking sharks. What was the point of that?
There was no point.
They just wanted to gotcha. Like, why? Why would they do that? That is the only major criticism that I have to say that I haven't already said. Dan, anything from you?
I wasn't a big fan of probably half the acting in it.
Yeah.
Beck was so flat. There was literally like a scene where when he calls Martin to like request like super immediate backup, he decides not to tell her that another crew member has died.
Which, like, why?
Yeah, fucking why? And second, I thought he was possessed by a robot or something. I mean, he literally like just like stood there and was just like, no crew member has died aside from that one. Okay. I was like, come on, bro. Like, what? I thought a couple of the actors were good, but like half of them were bad. And yeah, that was another criticism I had.
All right, Nico, any last thing from you?
I'm just gonna echo what Dan said. The only characters that I've really actually liked were Williams and Jones. The rest of them were either bad or lifeless. And in particular, Six Pack was such a fucking miserable little chauvinist cretin that I was actively cheering for him to die like this was a slasher movie. That has never happened in a movie like this before, where we're like, or at least to me, I've never been cheering for people to die and just rooting for the big bad thing du jour. So I'm with you there, Dan.
Do you think that might have been their intention to just make him such an asshole that when he died, everyone would be happy?
I want to say yes, but then we had I cards on the table. It's been a long day. I can't remember if we said this on or off the pod, but you had mentioned earlier how Jones was going up to Six Pack after, when he's in the med bay, and he's like, "Hey man, just wanted to check on you, let you know that we're all good and we've accomplished the job. I'm gonna let you get some sleep though." So like, it's what is this bond that they have?
Yeah, it's pretty true. That is pretty true. But I feel like it's time, guys. We gotta put our cards on the table, say what we feel. What would you give this movie? Scale from 1 to 100. Starting with you, Dan.
I'm going to have to say 35.
Whew. That hurt.
Do you want to qualify that at all, Dan?
I mean, again, I think if Alien and The Thing didn't exist, I think this would be a much better movie to me. Or even if, cool, you can rip the plot off these two movies, but change something. Like, make it unique somehow.
Change something.
And I think, Nico, earlier you had said this movie was like so close to being pretty good or like something about that. And I think that's true. I feel like if they had just changed something, I would have been happy. Even like, it wouldn't be like a phenomenal movie, but I probably would have given it a 60 or 70 or something like actually respectable. But it's just so
like good,
much
cheesy fun.
Yeah, and this is just so much of a ripoff of other movies, and like not even uniquely, no twist, not even like well done. Like, it's just, I don't know. I had read something that said like it was. I think it did fairly well in the box office, and somebody was saying like one of the reviews from back in the day when it came out was talking about like this was a good movie of the moment kind of thing, but it will be forgotten in 2 weeks. And I think that's so true. As much as I've gone off on it, it was okay, but in a couple weeks from now, like, what is this movie? I'm not going to care about it,
True. And to give us some historical context, this was one of a slew of underwater themed kind of horror movies that came out around that time period. So we'll definitely have to dive into some of those a little bit later. But Nico, I want to hear from you. Scale from 1 to 100.
So when I was talking with y'all before we were on the pod and while I was sort of like watching the movie, I had the thought to sort of qualify my commentary with, I don't hate this, I just think it's blah, blah, blah. But this is bad past the point of so bad it's good. It's just bad. The acting is bad. The design is okay. It's frustrating. That's what this movie is. It's frustrating. I'm gonna give this a 35 as well.
Ouch.
Are you gonna save the score at all?
You guys have, I am actually. You guys have really been hard on this movie. I'm gonna be a little bit less hard, and you guys haven't really been excited by this movie. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 40. I don't think it's quite 35 level.
You motherfucker coming in here like, I'm gonna redeem it. Yeah, okay.
It's just not very good. I think there's much like, how sometimes you might want like a certain flavor of ice cream, but they don't have it, so you just get something else. And I mean, yeah, you're eating ice cream, but it's not what you really want. And you're at the end, you're not even satisfied.
Dog, you know what it's like? It's like if back when we were at college de jour, if you wanted like a Bucciano's, but instead you got a extreme pizza, this is extreme pizza.
Yes, Bucciano's. We love that restaurant. So,
Gotta get some Bucci. Bucci and
but no,
Gabbana.
I mean, shut the fuck up.
Bucci Maine.
So,
Oh, shit. Is that the clone?
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
hope so. Yo, who
So-
really runs Atlanta? Bucci Maine.
Tune into our next bonus episode about Bucci Maine.
but no, I mean, that's what I'd have to give the episode. So real quick, would you recommend that? Would you put somebody through this movie?
No,
No.
just go watch Alien or The Thing.
That's literally what I would say. No, but you could watch Alien or The Thing instead. And as a quick closing note, it's funny. We keep talking about Alien because the movie does. So Stan Winston, he was responsible for a lot of the creature effects in this. He actually worked on Aliens.
Huh. I mean, that tracks.
Wild times. Wild times. Well, that's been it from us here at Don't Open That Door. To be real, sorry we couldn't recommend this one. Can't recommend them all. But you can go watch Alien or The Thing and be satisfied.
I'm sorry. It's very rare when we've had an ending to an episode where we go recommend a different movie.
It's true.
It's true. And we still have to do our review for The Thing, which, we'll hopefully do in the near future. But until then, stay dry. And please, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.